we are kicking off with JP, who I've had the pleasure of working a bit closer with over the past year and learning more about his work, which is not only fascinating from the biogeochemical side of things, but what I really appreciate about JP's teaching is just the real world experience that he provides for his students. And I don't know if he's sharing a bit about that today, but his students go through the process of developing products, of developing brands, of understanding the business component of what it takes to really put a product out there. And that type of applied, like real world learning, I think is a critical complement, right, to the science, the biochemical science behind it of developing these new products that he supports. And so really, really pleased to introduce JP, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Noah. Thank you, everyone, for taking such interest in our work. Let's get this guy going. Here we are. So let me just pin myself so I'm minimized. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a background to myself and some of the things that I've been doing, which you might be a little bit surprised. My background is actually as a biochemist in clinical pathology and biochemistry, and my studies involved in poisons and toxins, aquaculture, peptide synthesis, which are small proteins, particularly fermentation biochemistry, which has actually added a lot of benefit to some of the programs I'm going to talk about in research a little bit, as just a bit of a tether. But natural products, which includes animal and plant materials, become something very essential here in their development. So I'm very interested in adding value to Hawaiian agricultural products, and also particularly empowering small industries or small partners to make big impacts locally and nationally and internationally, giving them access to abilities which they may not have had either financial capacity or knowledge in that regards. And I'll talk a little bit about those particular components. And I'm a big believer in team science, that everybody has to collaborate. We're not just a single island, as we know, we're multiple islands, but collaborations are very important in science, but also very important in business, particularly with particular markets. So I've got a whole load of different accolades under myself, and these are some of the grants that we actually run at the moment, some with the medical school, some with the USDA. But it all has to start somewhere. So if you have a look here, this is the projection of how Australians, I'm from Australia, see the world. We're on the top. And my journey started off really not in Australia. I was actually born in the United Kingdom and then emigrated to Australia, to Queensland or Brisbane in 1980. I took most of my education there, including my doctoral degree in the Centre for Drug Design and Development. And this is the interesting part. We were selected, there was 5 of us who were selected nationally to become the entrepreneurs in the drug industry in Australia. And I'm actually the last one left in academia. The other 4 are actually running very large pharmaceutical companies, one called Amgen in Palo Alto in California, another one in DuPont, and another one in Bayer. So, and then what I had to do as a postdoc, because usually we try to leave our institutes in our countries to get experience for 6 to 7 months or a year, and then come back with that particular technology. So I actually moved to, my arrows moved a little bit here, to UCSF, University of California, San Francisco, in the Department of Pharmaceutical Chemistry, where I spent a few years learning some new techniques using mass spectrometry, which I'll talk a little bit about. The next move was actually to Yale Medical School, again into the Department of Pharmacy, where I basically was doing some pioneering work with some very big names in regards to looking at ion channels, which are very key things in keeping our bodies going. But then an opportunity came up when I read the advertisement. I had to give myself a bit of a pinch that CTAHR was offering a position in biochemistry with teaching, with interest in aquaculture. And my particular interest is with some of the resources that Hawaii actually had to offer. But coming from a clinical background, I was a little kind of dubious in regards to why am I coming into a tropical college of agriculture? But I'm here. I've been now here for 16 years. So my journey, not being 6 months, has now been 26 years in the United States. So I now call, obviously, Hawaii home. But it has to start somewhere. So my education at the University of Queensland in the Center of Drug Development really emphasized this issue about entrepreneurship, innovation, thinking out the box, looking at your resources, and how you can manage and utilize those to particular objectives or gains. So in the past 5, 6 years, we've worked with a number of particular companies in Hawaii in regards to developing some certain components in the research side, but then these are having implications and impact in product development, as well as importantly, coming to actually a fruition of a small startup company called Bitterroot Brewery, which I'll talk a little bit about a little later on. So we started off really working with Daily Wellness, Kevin and Denny, in regards to looking at how they had some problems with their production processes in looking at turmeric as a value-added product. I started collaborating with Dr. Ted Radovich in the Tropical Plant Soil Science Department to start looking at and examining how things could change when you took a rhizome, a turmeric plant, a leno, in regards to actually going into different soil types, water, weather, conditions, and which changes the active compounds, which both Kevin and Denny were very, very interested in because of their particular pharmaceutical biological properties, and they're very, very good antioxidants. Our more recent activity is with the Ulu Cooperative, and I'll talk a little bit about that now, and not so much in this particular talk, where we're looking at developing new products from Ulu, including a vodka, but also importantly, utilizing materials that may not actually be primary materials for market. So either the B products or the more inferior products, which you may not want to take to market, but we can process and utilize those and extrapolate materials from those. And from the Bitterroot Brewery, which is actually our student run. So I run a course, which Noah kind of alluded to, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in regards to actually developing now a limited liability company with a full business plan and everything else and product. And now going to the situation of developing more ginger-based products because we've actually utilized some of the science behind the instrumentation and abilities in my laboratory to actually improve the capacity of these flavors, as well as increase their utilization by utilizing all the waste product from ginger to produce a final product. And we produce syrups and a ginger flower, but also the ginger alcoholic beer just from one batch of ginger root. So again, we've actually housed that in the laboratory, and it has now gone to such a higher level and there's such a high demand and interest, we've had actually now spin off a small business on that. So, but let's have a little talk about some of it in regards to the science. When we think about science, we think about, white lab coats and clean little rooms and extreme expensive instruments, which you'll get to hear about a little bit. But a lot of it is actually a lot of repetition, a lot of boring stuff. So we're always very excited to look at new plant materials and products to be able to do analysis on. And we use these high pressure liquid chromatography devices, as you see here. Now, these particular instruments, and I'll give you some examples, will actually allow you to identify molecules and compounds in very complex mixtures. And we can actually quantify, or i.e., determine the amount of those particular materials present. And that's the important thing in regards to either formulating a final product like a pill or a drink, but also looking at the value added capacity in processing your material to get the key compound or materials that you want to bring to market. Now, these instruments are extremely sensitive, and this is actually an important feature to my whole story, that we can determine and detect nanograms of material. That's 10 times to the -9 of a gram. You can't even see 10 nanograms of material. So these instruments are extremely sensitive, and so we only need a very, 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 very small part or amount of material to do analysis on. Now, unfortunately, these instruments, as you can see, they're very expensive. About a new instrument is about $210,000, and that's not including the columns, the consumables, and the solvents that these things consume. These are actually pharmaceutical standard instruments. All my lab is actually pharmaceutical industry standard equipment. So our students who get trained can migrate to the pharmaceutical industry if they so desire. But these instruments in particular are also used in the food industry. They have these instruments at Coca-Cola on Oahu to measure the syrup and the caffeine concentrations to make sure that they have the mixture of the syrup and the carbonated water together when they bottle the actual Coca-Cola here. So that's a good example of what you can do with these types of instruments. Very, very versatile. And an example here is some work we did with chilies some years ago, where we were looking at various chilies found here in Hawaii and elsewhere, and grown in different locations and given different amounts of water to look at the bioactive compounds, which are these, in this case, the cuminoids, in regards to the capsaicins, sorry, wrong species, capsaicins, which are these molecules that give it the hotness in regards to the flavor, but also the color. And we were also doing vitamin C analysis to see, what species of these various chili varieties would give us actually the capacity to actually look them as a health food component. The interest part was this, where we wanted to actually bring these into aquaculture. And actually the student who had done this work, and she's done this work about 12 years ago, is actually now running a small farm using hydroponics in aquaculture to grow chilies and provide them to a marketplace in regards to quality materials. So again, that was a little bit of a spin-off very early on. But that's actually what has got us really kind of interested in furthering the mission of the college in regards to adding value to products. Okay. So another instrument we use is called a mass spectrometer. And this gives us precise molecular mass and fingerprinting. Now, again, a new instrument here is $500,000 to $700,000. But again, the detection level and capacity to determine what that compound is or measure the concentration is, in this case, in the femtograms. So that's 10 to the minus 16 of a gram. So if you want to think of a kilo, it's actually basically 15 zeros after a decimal place and a number. So again, these particular instruments are extremely sensitive. And again, it gets back to my original issue in regards to having materials which you can't see, but we can analyze. So we see science is really expensive, but how can it add value to Hawaiian products? So what we see here is with turmeric, we have the 3 active compounds with turmeric, which is a very efficient antioxidant, which provides essential cellular good health. And there's a lot of interest now in turmeric production. 98% of turmeric in the United States that is consumed comes from India. Hawaii actually is one of the most productive, I think it's actually one of the only few productive states in the United States that produces a level of turmeric. Most of it's for local consumer, not so much for national exportation to the mainland. But we want to try and change that. And this is where both Denny from Daily Wellness came to me and said, how can we process our turmeric better? And we actually provide them a very poignant approach in the analysis of these particular compounds. So here we have the various turmeric compounds as we see these by high pressure liquid chromatography. So the peak area gives us the amount of concentration. The unique retention time, or where that compound elutes, gives us the capacity to actually identify that if we have standards. But if we don't, we use mass spectrometry to fragment this particular molecule and get a particular fingerprint. So it gives us a capacity in our lab to do rapid analysis. The interesting thing was when Denny and Kevin came to me was, well, we want to know how much of these active compounds are actually in the variations and varieties of Olano or turmeric that we have available here in Hawaii. So we actually had a whole lot of different types of cultivars or species, turmeric, and they all look roughly the same in regards to their orange color. So we actually started analyzing these to try and find the best species for they can get their maximal concentrations and maximal productional yields, which we actually work with them quite effectively. The interesting thing is that their farmers, through their co-op and their own farming activities, were bringing bags of turmeric. And where I only need a little bit like a pinhead, or not even a pinhead amount of material, this turmeric started accumulating in the laboratory. And I'm going, what the hell am I going to do with all this turmeric? So what happened? We started grinding the turmeric up and just storing it. And it wasn't until I actually thought about, adding a value product to that, where we integrated into a fermentation biochemistry class. So with both Denny and Kevin, we were looking at the monitoring of the quality and the extraction to get the active compounds that they wanted to actually put in their pills or in their dietary supplements, but also add value to those particular materials. But unknown to most people, turmeric comes in actually various forms. There is yellow, white, and even blue turmeric that is available. And we don't know much about the type of antioxidants that these particular materials have. They might actually even be better than what we have with the Olano, which is the main turmeric that we see here in Hawaii. So we had all these tons and tons, well, not tons, but pounds and pounds of turmeric. And then I started actually another project on basically ginger and looking at compounds called ginger rolls. So all this material was accumulating in the laboratory, and I'm running a fermentation lab looking at how to make fermented products. And I got the idea of, well, why don't we just use the turmeric and the ginger that is piling from the farmers to develop a product? So we actually now, with a student group, which has taken about 4 years to develop. So we have reiterations of the student group coming through. And finally, one particular group who's been working on this for about 6 years now said, okay, we're ready to go to LLC, a limited liability company, and we have a number of products that we've developed with them, and they're actually now marketing those. So you can go onto Facebook or Linktree and find their various attributes in ordering and their markets where they go to the farmers markets. But they produce a turmeric ginger beer, a ginger beer, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic. Now, the alcoholic we can't sell at this stage. It's 7%, but I'll tell you, as an Australian, it is very, very good. And actually, I'm just about to go to Australia and actually go to, you've heard of Bundaberg Ginger Beer. We're going up to Bundaberg to look at their facility, but also test and actually bring back samples of the over 50 ginger beers that are actually present in Australia, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic, to compare. And I can tell you now, I have tasted most of those ginger beers. Ours one still wins hands down. They also make a ginger syrup, ginger chews, and very popularly are ginger cookies. And these are called Not Your Grandma's Ginger Cookies because they are for adults, because we've given them to kids. And one of the comments they say, they burn when they go down. So they give a really strong gingery taste. And we're doing that by developing some differential extraction techniques to increase the concentration of various ginger rolls. There's about 16 of them, and we can actually then formulate those particular ginger rolls to get different types of flavors and effects. So it's a bit like a compound pharmacy, which is a part of my background. But this is all actually eventuated from an entrepreneurial student class that I have run called Molecular Bioscience Bioengineering 666 Fermentation Biochemistry. Now, we developed this class specifically because STEM graduate students have great ideas and abilities, and they are full of these types of ideas when they start getting into a group and thrown a problem, and they can usually solve that. But unfortunately, our scientists get very little training in how to bring a product or develop a product to market. They usually have little or no business sense or knowledge of business, which is a great shame because obviously these individuals could be great entrepreneurs in agriculture and develop these particular products. So the course is designed to develop and introduce both marketing and cost analysis, to develop a fermentation-based product in most cases, alcoholic and non-alcoholic, but also importantly, install the importance of building up business plans, networks, and a particular strong business model. And our students are actually to take this class, and actually today, They are actually doing a showcase on another product from this class, and I'll talk about a little bit of that in a second. But they are going to do a show product in regards to their development of the particular product, and then do an angel investment pitch with the ideas of looking at their market share and what their product capacity is going to be. But ultimately, we actually utilize the science to refine the product and allow us to basically get something unique out there, which we know most people may not be able to achieve if not given some assistance from a larger institute such as the university with all this snazzy wazzy wing bang equipment. So this company now is actually growing. We are looking at how to ensure continuity of the supply chain, which gets us back to from farm to bottle in regards to the growing ginger techniques. Ginger has some problems in regards to some nematodes and some fungal problems, and we're trying to examine those particular aspects to mitigate and minimize those. One thing we are focused with all our productions of our products is minimizing production waste and full utilization of materials. We are adding additional products based on our ginger capacity, but also we're looking at, again, compounding turmeric and ginger into dog biscuits for their anti-inflammatory activities. And actually, my dogs love these, and this is the idea that came from those. And now they actually have a little bit more mobility capacity to enjoy their later years. But this is actually the next class who will be doing a presentation today and offering Bingsu and Shave Ice. And so it's quite amazing to see this particular product come through, a local classic, which basically utilizing an alcoholic fruit syrup, utilizing some novel techniques, particularly the Chong technique, in regards to the way they fermented those and extrapolated those particular flavors. Now, these are Shave Ice for adults. We also do what's it called? Bola bubbles, the small pearls that you see in bubble tea. We basically also utilize those as a carrier for alcohol also. So there's some very significant interest in utilizing these in bars and at nightclubs, interestingly, but also to provide a different capacity to produce a product that is not there out there on the market as such. So that's the end of my particular conversation. These are the actual students involved in the Bitterroot Brewery business. And one of their mottos is locally made and locally sourced. And it's something that they really do drive and retain that philosophy in their business models. And we promote that particular philosophy in every class in the 666 class, which is a graduate class. And it's only done once every year. So we basically get a whole large number of students who are very committed because they hear about the class, the business aspect, and being able to maybe produce a product that might have a market and actually be fruitious in regards to the developing of value-added products to the state of Hawaii. Thank you very much, and I will take questions if they're at the end. Thank you.